Welcome back. Yeah, you're right. Here's the question of this video. Is it too hot to fish? That can be a rather difficult question to answer with one straightforward answer. For a lot of people, it depends on who you are. Depends on your constitution. How hot is hot for you? What is too hot for you? Now, this is one of those weeks where for yours truly, it has been too hot already, just brutal. We started out with July having way too much rain, and then we come into August where we are right now, the first week of August. We don't have any rain, even though we got clouds, and that is a nice thing for today. However, it was a hot day. We have brutal heat. We've had heat advisories throughout the summer already, but this week we have near triple digit temperatures. Today we got up to 98, but we were supposed to get up to 99. Same thing for tomorrow, but it was pretty hot to start this week, and it just took a toll on me, and I couldn't get motivated. I did come out and try and do something the other night. Did not work out, and it took a lot. But that's the case for some of us. Some of us have a threshold for some heat. Others can take a little more. But as you get older, which is the case for myself, you either rather think about Minnesota or living around the equator suits you just fine. However, none of that answers the real question. Is it too hot to fish? So for some people, it's too hot or it's too cold for whatever, and that's all over the place what that is. Like, what is too hot and what is too cold? Like I was just saying, it's all over the place. But what about the fish? If we're just bank fishing, it depends. Yes, it can be too hot. 98 degrees can be too hot. Now the index for today got up to 114, what it felt like. It can be too hot for some places or for some kinds of fishing. It depends on your water depth. All about the water temp really, and then that leads you to the water depth. So what we're doing this afternoon is just trying to achieve a video while it's not too bad. It was 93 degrees when I left the house here at sunset. We're just like around 111 at the field temp, so it's still pretty warm. I'm sweating bullets over here, and we're just going to do something easy and quick, not too far from the house, because I have not been faring well during the heat. I'm a little ashamed to say, but yeah, it can be that way as you get older. Some days you're just like, screw this heat. Absolutely though, fishing can suck when it's really hot, just depending, especially like for us as fishermen, right? It can be just downright miserable. But the quality of the fishing can also suck depending on what you're going after. They might be in much deeper water. If it's saltwater fish, they might be in deep water that is further offshore than you're willing to go or able to go. Things of that nature. So right here where we're at, who knows if we're going to get anything big or anything at all, but we're going to start out with worm under the float rather than artificials. However, I do want to fish a jig. I'm going to start over here. This is a small pumping station. Only starting here because there's a lot of light. Sometimes there's even more trash than you see right now. When I was a kid, where I grew up, pretty often in summer had to deal with many days that were around 118 degrees. Like, that's straight up 118 degrees straight. We're not talking about an index. We're not saying what it felt like. That's what it really was. That was in Texas, and those days were brutal. Let me tell you, when it really is over 100 degrees, it's really horrible. I mean, I think Death Valley over in California has had temperatures like around 134 recorded, and that's brutal. I mean, you can die with that stuff. But when I was a kid, if you went out in the middle of the day, you know, they always say like Englishmen and mad dogs are out in the midday heat. Well, maybe Texas kids as well. There we go, there's a fish right there. There's fish here. There were times when I got sick, and there we go. That's not too bad. That's a nice sized gill. Oh, and there he goes. Keeping fish is not really the most important thing on this session. Maybe we will, because there are some fish that love hot water, and we would need cut bait for them. Alligator gar is the one that comes to mind when you're stuck with shallow water and all the big cats have moved on to deeper holes that you can't access. Your big fish right there in front of you swimming around, alligator gar, that's what it is. Not that we're going to do that tonight, but maybe soon, because it is definitely accessible. Back to what I was rambling on about. So when I was a kid, yeah, I had to deal with hot days, and I got used to it. But when I moved away from Texas when I was young, I eventually got used to colder temperatures because I moved to a different climate. But I didn't grow up in that climate, right? So I can still take some heat, right? But the older I get, the less enjoyable it is. It's more about the humidity here in this area. It's the humidity that gets you. If this was a dry heat around 98 degrees this week, if we had dry air, probably would affect me less than it is, right? So there are people that grow up in different climates, northern climates, right? And there are people that grow up in very southern climates. We're talking extremely northern compared to Louisiana, and extremely southern compared to Louisiana. We're not so south that it's just as cold as it is north. You know, we're talking about the northern hemisphere is what we're talking about. So when they swap places, they really start to complain, because there's people that grew up, let's say in the UK, because it's kicking off there this week, right? Now they complain when it's like about what, 30 degrees Celsius. You know, 86 degrees is like hot, the hottest day for most of them in the UK, right? That's nothing. That's kind of warm down here, but that's not the hottest day, right? If people down here are complaining about 86 degree weather, they're either not from here, or they're you know, their sauce is weak, or they're just really, really old, and because heat and cold can affect you. Now there are some magical people out there. The older they get, the easier it is to deal with cold weather, or the easier it is to deal with hot weather. However, most of those people I've met on the hot side, they seem to rather deal with hot, dry weather than hot, humid weather. But I've met all kinds. You know, I like decent, nice weather, honestly. So it's not like I crave extremely cold or extremely hot, but I don't mind it getting cold, and I don't mind it getting hot. But when it starts to, you know, that needle starts to go past that comfort, and you know, it's say maybe you got a cold or something, yeah, it is what it is. If you don't like it, you don't like it. However, you should always respect it when it's like definitely dangerous, when you're looking up the weather in your local area and it's saying dangerous heat wave. Well, prepare yourself. Either don't go out in the worst of it, or make sure you're hydrated and that you don't spend too much time in direct sunlight. If you need protection from the sunlight, such as, oh, I'm missing words, you know, ointment and whatnot. Here we go, here's a fish. This is what we're doing. This is one of those videos where M. Hood seems to be talking a lot, but he's just not feeling like doing a lot of editing, really. So he's going to talk, catch a fish, and like show you that fish. This one we're going to keep because he swallowed it too deep. It may seem like a lot of talking, but really it's less editing because the house is hot. I've had friends this week that have had their ACs die. My AC over the last few days seemed like it was dying, but I saved it. I had to take it apart and clean it. I need to put on my headlamp because look, we're in that dark zone over here. But I don't want to put on the headlamp because then we'll be in that headache zone. Which is like a segue to the next thing. This is kind of like not just man catching bait, this is man moaning. So like I said, July gave us a lot of rain, like a lot of rain, right? And now here we are with no rain. We're drying out, we're getting a lot of heat. So we've had an explosion of overgrowth everywhere, right? And so we have a lot of things that I'm allergic to exploding everywhere, such as ragweed. Let me tell you, when your hay fever, your allergies light up and it's way too hot, whoa, the sinus headaches are just brutal. Let's see if we can get another gill. There seems to be a lot of gills right here in the garbage pit, which I'm really happy that, you know, we don't have to stare at a lot of garbage. Sometimes it's like a weird mix of dead things and garbage and soccer balls, whatever gets in the drains and comes out from underground will be here like a bunch of trash. If I get this bait really close right here, I think, oh, we got something. He wasn't even taking it down. Look at that. Look at that. They're not giant gills coming out, but honestly I thought we were going to be dealing with just like the smallest of everything here with maybe not much else. But yeah, okay, so I guess we'll keep that one, and then we have 2 pieces of bait for whatever I'm going to do next. I keep placing this way out there and then catching a fish by the time I get it over here. So let's just go ahead and drop it right down in that zone. I'm gonna risk everything and put the rod down for a sec because, oh, my due diligence is lacking in putting this away. All right, here we are, back in business, rod in hand. Still got sweat on my brow. Is there anything else there? Still have bait on my hook. Did it shut down? I doubt it. I bet there's still something, but I'm expecting like a species flip-flop, a species switch to happen here pretty soon. I'm expecting goggle eye to start coming up on that hook rather than bluegill, but we can still get bluegill even though it's like almost technically night. It's definitely past sunset, but it's not quite dark yet, is it? What's the flashing? It's a tow truck. There's a bunch of flashing yellow lights over there. It's a tow truck towing a box truck. There we go. There's one right there. Got that species switch yet? No, we don't. It's another gill. What do you think my cap on what I keep for bait should be? So let's go ahead and keep this one because it's not a bad size for that. So that's 3. I don't want to keep too many. All right, so the tow truck just decided he'd go down there, turn around and come back down here. I don't know, just the things you see when you're fishing and you're like, why do they do that? Must be lost, don't know how to use the GPS or whatever. I've got friends like that. I've got a friend who I would say, oh, why don't you just Google it? Why don't you just Google it? And he finally asked me, how much does it cost to Google stuff? I said, it's free, bro. He thought I was like just burning money up, Googling all kinds of weird things. So I thought I would put the float over in this corner to see if we could find a different species. And so far, oh, there we go. There is something there. I just had to keep popping and shaking the jig. There we go. It's a little thing, but I think we definitely have changed the species count here. We've got a different species. That is a little interesting Rio Grande cichlid. Look at the black spot. You must have a redfish as a cousin. We gotta replenish the worm. I learned an interesting fact this week, because England, you know, the UK, has been in the news a lot, and I've been following all the stories there with the unrest and whatnot. I wanted to know, land-wise, what American state is comparable to England. And when I say England, I'm excluding all the other countries that make up the United Kingdom, which includes Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, right? So we're just talking about England. England is comparable to the size of Alabama or Michigan, but with a much greater population. So it's actually, in fact, quite a small country with a lot of people. And a lot of people think that it's a very rich country, but maybe if you consider like London, but their GDP is actually not that big. So yeah, it's not what you think it is. It's just really, really crowded. Why so many people want to risk their lives going there, I could guess why. You know, they think it's going to be a great change of pace or whatever. Or maybe, you know, because they're coming from hotter countries, they're just like sick of the heat. But some of those people that want to better their lives and come from some country where it's not great for them at the time, where it's actually a hot country, and then they go to a country like, say, ours or England, they freak out when winter happens, because some people in the world have just never experienced true winter, whereas some people in the world have never experienced a Southeast Louisiana summer. It's like they never knew humidity was such a thing. They've never experienced humidity like this. Even people that are from colder places that are just as humid as Southeast Louisiana, such as Minnesota. Northern Minnesota is actually just as humid as here, but doesn't get as hot as here. So that's a different cup of tea, right? It's all about the humidity and the heat coupled together to make, you know, either a bad week or a good week. In this case, it's a bad week. Back up against the wall. Is there anything there? No, let's try somewhere else. It's starting to slow down, believe it or not. I know some people are like, well, it was never crazy. There was a tempo in the beginning, and it seems to have dissipated a bit. Sometimes with gill, as night comes, in some places the bite will change. It may come back, but as we come into the real change of things, you know, like it's getting dark, right? Some fish may react less, whereas others may start to react more. So kind of like the switching of the tides or whatever. We have the switching of the guard in process right now, because I guarantee you bluegill are not the only species. Well, we've already proven that, right? There are Rio Grande here, but there are probably goggle-eye here, and I'm wondering if that is going to be the small sizes. Yes, we've had only one small size Rio Grande, but I'm wondering if only small goggle-eye are here, because that's been the case, or you know, at other times. Here we go. There's a fish right there. Took a while. Move that around. And there we go. There's Mr. Goggle Eye. We were talking about you. Were your ears burning? And he's not too big and he's not too small. And he's going back. Look at that. Look at that. Absolutely love catching these when they're giant. It's just like catching a small bass. It's kind of fun. Here you go. So far, a good talk. We've had a good conversation. And I feel like I should have brought the mess kit because I feel like a cup of tea. Well, I tell you what, I did bring. Let's go ahead and do that thing. We're gonna put the rod down and just try to keep, attentiveness to that cork. Because, like I said, more talking, less editing. This is definitely screw the cup of tea. We'll have that later, right before I get into post. Agua, water. That's what I need. Even though the sun's not out burning down on me, you could still easily become dehydrated. And the key to surviving a very hot day is staying hydrated, possibly, and staying out of the heat or out of the sun. Like last week when this heat started, I got out a little too late in the morning, like mid-morning, 9-ish, 10 o'clock in the morning, and it was extremely hot, but I had to cut the grass, and then I had to work on the AC. I did both those things in one day, and I felt sick after it, but at least my AC is working better, and my grass, well, needs to be cut again, because it seems like every 3 days you need to cut that stuff or it's going to be a jungle. Yeah, that tempo is definitely slowing down. Nothing touched the worm as it just lingered out there. There's got to be more goggle eye than the one we caught, but at least we've achieved something. Good conversation, some bait, some catches. We got to stare at some dirty water for a while. We might even catch another fish. However, I'm pretty sure some dogs need to piss because they've been texting me, "Where the hell are you?" Nah, they went right before I left, but they prefer my company to my absence for sure. Come on. Oh, I saw that. We had a bite. And we're getting spotlit by random vehicle on the other side of the bayou. Back to man moaning. There's something that... Oh, what's going on? Whoa, 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 whoa. Look at this. This pumping station just turned on, and I don't have any light. You're just going to have to live with the darkness, with the dim. Look, it just decided to gush out like randomly. Wow. I do my best to enhance the footage there so we can see some of that white water activity, and it just like sucks everything from the subterranean world that is up under there, and this little pipe here, this little culvert. So does it change the amount of fish in here? Does it discombobulate? Definitely dirtied it up a lot more than it already was. And now, at first, the water was drawn out and into the bayou, and these turn on and like just whoosh it out. And now it's all receding back into there, right? So what did that cause the fish to do in here? Did they just hold? Or do they get discombobulated? Did they get whooshed out? That was weird. I haven't been here before when this thing turned on before. That was random too. well, that was absolutely an intense experience. And I think that intense experience is just combobulated this bit of water here just way too much, because I'm not getting any bites. I think eventually the bites may return, but I shall return to somewhere else in the meantime. Yeah, you're right. Hey, thanks for listening to me just go on and on and on and catch a few little fish. I appreciate that. Yeah, you're right. Hey, tell me what the most extreme temperature you've had to deal with, hot and cold, down below. I'd like to hear, and I'm sure a lot of other people would like to hear. Tell us what temperature is too cold and what temperature is too hot. Tell us what you've had to deal with when you went somewhere and how horrible or how much you loved it. Yeah, you're right. Love to know. Hey, thanks for watching, liking, sharing, commenting, being a subscriber, being a member of the channel, and all that good stuff. Thank you for watching. Yeah, you're right. I think I butchered that. Yeah, you're right. See you next time.